they have been laying this groundwork. The last thing they want to do now is have this thing go kinetic. They see themselves as winning this thing. The only thing that could force a kinetic situation, I think, is if Taiwan were to declare independence. And they're smarter than to bring that on themselves.
It's hard to pick a point where the warning signs started to mount, but when China launched a new aircraft carrier, shot off a long-range missile, and then threatened to attack if Nancy Pelosi went to Taiwan, which she appears to be doing, the Pentagon started leaving the lights on at night. Joining us tonight, Captain Chuck Nash. Chuck, good to see you.
Good evening, Doug. Nice to be with you.
It's fascinating how this is developing because the White House put John Kirby out there before the reporters today to kind of set the record straight. Again, a record which the President of the United States last week seemed to leave par for the course very muddled. To quote what President Biden said last Wednesday about this proposed Nancy Pelosi trip to Taiwan, quote, "I think that the military thinks it is not a good idea right now, but I don't know what the status of it is." This is the guy who is the President of the United States. You'd think that he would be coordinating with the Speaker of the House, but apparently not, at least at that stage.
Well, coordinating with the Speaker, perhaps, but definitely coordinating inside the executive branch with the Department of Defense and with the Secretary of State. Both of those entities have come out with conflicting statements today. And it sounded to me like John Kirby, a former Navy admiral, Rear Admiral, was laying the groundwork for please don't see this as being provocative. It was almost conciliatory in tone by saying, oh, well, this is not a change. Well, the last time a Speaker of a House visited Taiwan was Newt Gingrich, and that was 25 years ago. Now, there have certainly been congressional delegations since then, many of them, in fact. So it's like on the one hand and then on the other hand. No, it's got to be consistent. And supposedly having the adults back in the room is what we were told would happen with this administration. Instead, we just see massive bungling.
It certainly appears to be that way. Kirby, as you said, is trying to set the record straight here pretty much, and has said that there's been no change in policy. But the fact that there's this lack of coordination suggests that the White House is unaware of what the Speaker is doing. Kirby did say this morning that she's flying on a military plane, which suggests that there's got to be a high level of coordination between the various branches of government here.
Well, the military aircraft that are made available to members of the Congress are in fact controlled by the U.S. Air Force, and there is a assistant inside the Pentagon with a civilian with a 4-star rank that also executes those schedules and makes certain aircraft available to members of Congress. So the Congress does not have its own airplanes. They use Navy and Air Force aircraft as scheduled by the Pentagon. So, yes, she's flying on a military aircraft.
Yeah. What are the prospects for this escalation of potential war or even some kind of attack from the People's Republic of China? Their language in the event of this visit by Pelosi to Taiwan has been unusually bellicose. But they've been unusually bellicose in the past, resulting in nothing really substantive. What's your estimation?
China is playing the long war game. They are not interested in a conflagration. They're not even interested in metal on metal. They are winning the hearts and minds and controlling things. Back over 2,000 years ago, there was a Chinese general, philosopher, and writer named Sun Tzu. And one of his things was that the best way to win a war is not fight it. You defeat the enemy in his mind before you even enter into a conflict, but you don't want to go kinetic. The Chinese have been following that. They have been infiltrating every single element of the United States and the West, but the United States in particular, whether it's spying and industrial espionage, whether it's the Confucius Institutes in our universities, the recent disclosure that they've been trying to penetrate the Federal Reserve banking system. They control film studios, television studios, talent agencies. So they're in the media, they're in our entertainment industry, and of course in our universities and think tanks. So they have been laying this groundwork. The last thing they want to do now is have this thing go kinetic. They see themselves as winning this thing. The only thing that could force a kinetic situation, I think, is if Taiwan were to declare independence. And they're smarter than to bring that on themselves.
Interesting. There's an issue coinciding with the controversy over this trip of a satellite, a rocket, falling into Earth's atmosphere and disintegrating. It was a very large rocket, and they gave no warning or made no effort to direct it to a place where no people were. Is that in and of itself provocative in any way, and what's the message we should take from that?
I think the Chinese look at this and say, look, the Earth is 71% water. Yeah, it was 22 tons of scrap metal at that point falling out of the sky, all but about 5 tons of it burn up in the atmosphere. So they were just playing the odds that this thing's going to splash down in the ocean, and it did. It splashed down right off the Philippines. Now, does that excuse them? No, because if that had hit in a city or killed a bunch of people, then it would have been a totally different scenario. And then what are you going to say? Hey, you owe us money? Yeah, right. Like they're just not willing to do this. So all of the spacefaring countries have, taken a little bit of umbrage at the casualness with which they have approached this reentry.
Does the U.S. military have the ability to distinguish between a rocket falling back to Earth and an intercontinental ballistic missile falling to Earth?
Yes, absolutely. We track everything, the size of a peanut on up, because the danger to the International Space Station, for example, and some of our other satellites that we rely on for communications and navigation, we need to track everything. So that's what they're doing out there in Space Mountain out in Colorado, and with networks around the world, so that we have 24/7, 365 eyes on space, tracking debris and tracking actual satellites and systems.
Last question, Chuck. Speaker Gingrich said of this potential visit by Nancy Pelosi to Taiwan that the president of the People's Republic of China has no business telling a Speaker of the United States House of Representatives where she can go, what country she can go to. So what is the purpose of President Xi's bellicose talk?
Well, Doug, he's facing the Communist Party Congress coming up very shortly, where he is going to ask them to reelect him to a third term, which is unprecedented, which would lock his grip on power in China, just as Putin has done in Russia, and the situation in Korea, where you have presidents for life. So he has to look strong in the face of this upcoming election of the Communist Party Congress.
I see. Chuck Nash, you always offer us so much insight, and you did today. So we really appreciate it. We want you to come back again. There's a lot of other issues that we're facing that are threats across the world. So stay tuned for that. Captain Chuck Nash, thanks very much.
Thanks, very kind.
Hi, I'm Doug McKelway, and thank you for watching Centerpoint. We hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. Leave a comment below and keep the conversation going by sharing this video with a friend who needs to see it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.